Today we have a very special guest, Deanna Hope, a personal development coach dedicated to empowering women in their pursuit of a fulfilled life. In our conversation, Deanna and I go into the art of establishing powerful habits and nurturing leadership mindset. Deanna's journey from balancing a full-time job, pursuing her master's degree, and maintaining her health and relationships had led her to the passion of high-performance habits. Tune in as we explore the limitless possibilities await when you cast your vision, cultivate your mindset, and take action. So let's dive in. Okay, so on today's episode, we actually have someone, I guess I've known you my whole life when we think about it, right?
Yeah, a long time.
So our kind of the backstory is our moms grew up together, and we've obviously been in contact their entire lives. And I feel like it's so exciting to actually have someone I know on the podcast. As I said earlier, we don't usually have guests on that we know. And Deanna, I'm so looking forward to this podcast because I feel like a lot of our listeners need your motivation, especially this time of year. It is lots going on in the industry. There's we've got all the holidays coming up. There's kind of that last quarter, that big push to get us motivated into the last months of the year. And also it's just sometimes very draining on us as well as service providers. But I'm excited to hear your story, how you got into the space for coaching, as well as some motivational things we can implement in our day-to-day lives to keep us motivated and accountable for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nicole, for having me on the podcast. I'm so excited to be here. I was thinking about it this morning. This is only, I think, the second time I've been a podcast guest. So I'm super excited to be on your show and share what I know. So I started personal growth about in 2017. I was in a job, an administrative assistant position that was pretty boring, I'll be honest, but it was at the University of Waterloo. So 25 years old, super secure job. I got the pension and benefits and love that, but not fulfilled, not happy. And so I set out in 2018 with 3 goals: was to start working in HR, which is what I went to school for, to lose 15 pounds, and then also to start my master's degree. And it was through, I say these 3 goals really clearly now, but it took a lot of pulling out the weeds and a lot of self-discovery and self-growth to figure that out. And it wasn't until I got this clear vision of where I wanted to go that I actually got motivated. And I'll tell you, you love fitness, and I had a gym membership for years, but I never went.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, one of my goals was to lose weight. And I would look back and I'm like, I've always had this gym membership, but I've never lost weight. And so one of the first changes that I made after I read this quote in the book, High Performance Habits. Have you read that book?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's it's the Bible of personal growth, in my opinion. But this one quote said, if you are going to have stress in your life, if you're going to do big things, you have to take exercise more seriously. So that was the first kind of catalyst that I was like, okay, I'm going to start working out at home. And when I made this switch, I got super consistent with working out, and I lost weight and I had more energy. And that's when I got an even clearer vision. And in the same month that I started these at-home workouts, I also got a job in HR at the university. And so I was like, okay, great, checking the boxes, right? And then I got into my master's program in August. And so all of these things started to line up. And I realized later, when I had gone away that same year in 2018, I went away for a weekend with my friends. And, I was looking to them to tell me great job, Deanna, great job. You've lost weight, you're doing all these things. And when you're looking for other people to validate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it never came. And so I was kind of mad at them for a while, because they didn't give me any that feedback I was looking for. And then this was another catalyst in my personal growth journey where I realized that I had done all this outside work, I got the vision and I got these 3 things that I really wanted, but I still didn't love myself and who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, went on this further self-exploration, self-leadership journey, and really started to get clear about how I wanted to feel in my life. And so now I have these 3 words that I use whenever I'm going into anything. like this podcast episode or
Yeah,
going into a meeting at work. And it's like, I ask myself, how can I be present? How can I be joyful? And how can I be energized?
I love that.
And yeah, so that's really how I got
Mhm.
started back in like 2017, 2018. It really started with having that clear vision of these are the three things that I want. And then after that happened and I got these things, then getting clear about how I wanted to feel in my life.
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
that's
mhm.
really driven me um on this path of like starting my own podcast and
Yeah.
moving to a small town. Like we lived in KW. I lived in KW for 7 years and I in a condo, and it just wasn't a space that made me feel like how I wanted to feel. And so
Mhm.
again, casted this vision of like, I want to live in a small town again. I want to feel happy and present. So that's a little bit about how I started. But started with that book, High Performance Habits, and then losing weight, working in my career, and yeah, getting clear about how I wanted to feel.
There's so many good points in that. Like, I really like how you're talking about, like, yes, the external you, everyone could see the external you, but also to you still doing the self-development internally. That is something that I feel like I struggle with as well. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners do as well, because you look like you have the part, you look like you've done all this self work, but really the mental is the hardest part. And like you said, like
Yeah.
kind of being discouraged in a way of like your friendships too, with like them not recognizing that as well. But then it's like, hold on, you got to look back at who you are as a person and how you're making that feel of having that validation from others when you need that
Yes.
validation yourself.
Exactly, exactly. I heard on, a podcast recently, there's 2 different types of happiness. There's being happy with your life, so with the things like the big things,
Yes.
your job, your career, your relationship, where you live, and then there's being happy in your life.
Mm-hmm.
On the day
Mm-hmm.
to day, it's that mindset, that attitude of gratitude, that's like those 3 feelings that I go after every day because that's, I think, how you are happy in your life, like,
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
things you're
Are
doing.
you like me and every other entrepreneur on this planet, trying to make things as simple and easy as possible, even when it comes to your health? Goalie apple cider vinegar gummies can help. Use promo code NickManion at checkout for 10% off your order. For those looking for a different take on apple cider vinegar, Goalie apple cider vinegar gummies contain all the old school benefits of traditional apple cider vinegar in an easy take gummy form. Their products are vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, and gelatin-free. Taste the apple, not so much the vinegar. 2 gummies contain 1 apple cider vinegar shot. Now, don't forget to use promo code NickManion at checkout for 10% off.
And, um, I heard on your podcast too, it's so important for you, like, in the beauty industry, when you're dealing with clients to kind of put on that
Yeah.
happy face, and so
Yeah.
maybe that's a real tool I think that, people in your space would love is, like, what are the 3
Mhm.
feelings that I can bring to this client experience or
Yes.
this appointment, to kinda, like, trigger,
Mhm.
that happiness or that
And that's what I
feeling.
feel like, whether like you're in any industry, I feel like beauty specifically, just because I know that space the most, is like you're taking care of everyone else. And you're a mother, you get that as well, right? You're taking
Yep.
care of everyone else, you're a wife, you're taking care of everyone. And it's one of those things where it is tricky. It's like, okay, my glass needs to be full to be able to overfill to others. And that's I'm a prime example of that. I cancel my appointments all the time at my own spa to get clients in or to be able to make it work for someone else if they need time off. Like, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh wow, I look like I'm falling apart and I own a spa. I'm
Yeah.
sure people are like, oh wow, you own a spa and those are your nails. Okay. Anyways. So what are some of the key
Yeah.
things you think that keeps people motivated and kind of accountable for? I always love like romanticizing your life. Like, what are the things in your day that, even like pouring yourself a nice cup of coffee in the morning, like romanticizing, really taking each little moment in? What are some of the things that keep you motivated and accountable? And even in your coaching, what are some of the things that you've really seen people stick with?
Yeah, so, I'll speak to motivation first,
Yeah.
and because I have a workshop that I've been doing, like a live workshop that I've been doing all about motivation recently,
Hmm.
and I always start by saying motivation requires action. So many people are just like, oh, I don't feel motivated. And it's like, well, yeah, if you sit there on the couch like a bump on the log,
Yeah.
you're not going to feel motivated, right?
Mhm.
And so motivation requires action. And the reason I always say this too is because I created this little acronym that's called VERB. And this is how you
Okay.
remember how to motivate yourself. So V is for vision. So having a clear vision, I say on both a macro level. So like your big vision of where you want to go, maybe that's your vision board, or yeah, your big vision. And then you also need a micro vision. Like, what are you going to
Mhm.
do on a daily basis that's going to motivate you, and having clear steps for that? Because if you just say, I'm going to work out in the morning, but
Yes.
you don't know, like, you haven't visualized exactly, okay, I'm laying out my workout clothes the night before. I'm going to get up at 6:50, like detailed step by step. Then your brain in the morning, like, no one's like thinking clearly in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like, so you need vision, like that macro vision, and then also the micro focus of like, what are the nitty-gritty steps of, and of course having like giving yourself grace and flexibility that like
Kind of
it's
setting
not
yourself up for success, those
setting yourself up for
steps.
success, but
Yeah.
also
Okay.
like knowing that it might not go as planned, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the E in verb is for your environment. So this is creating a space around you that you're excited to be in. Like I'm in my office slash workout space right now, and it's one of the first rooms in the house that I set up when we moved here because it's like, I want a workout space that feels good to me and that
Mhm.
I want to spend time in. So investing in some like maybe little pieces or something. Maybe it's investing your time in creating that space, like making it beautiful or whatever it is, that
Mhm.
makes you makes you motivated and clear-minded, like, um, to be in that space. And then the other part of environment is the people. Like, what are the
Yeah.
people that you need, right?
Mhm.
And I talk about there's people, in your balcony, like they're your cheerleaders. They're like gonna support you no matter what.
Yeah. I love that idea. Like the
Yeah.
visual of that. I can see that right now. Okay.
Yes. So thinking of like who are the people in your balcony that you need to spend more time with, or like get on the phone, or even
Mhm.
I think about it in terms of like podcasters or books
Yes.
or
Yeah.
like, yeah, like it doesn't have to be physical people in your environment, but like the people that are in your in your mindset environment
Mhm.
almost.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then there's people on like I say your main floor that are just like so whatever. And then there's people in your basement, and the people in the basement are the people that you have to watch because they're gonna try and like pull you back down to your comfort zone. And yeah, you just have to be really cognizant of like who's in your basement, who's gonna try and keep you there, and how can you kind of lessen your time um with those people.
Yeah, those are really good visuals because I feel like you kind of have an idea of those tiers of people, but actually to be able to categorize them in those moments. There is just as like I know you're going through the different ones
Yeah,
here, but
yeah.
with that I had a really good, I think it was just on like an Instagram reel. I saw it was a podcast interview, and someone was saying that is like you have your cheerleaders at the beginning when you're like still little, you're at their stage. And then when you start
Yes.
elevating, they're like, oh, it must be nice that this happened to you, or it must be nice, like, you got lucky,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's interesting. And those people can move within those tiers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's almost interesting too. Um, like you're saying, like people in your balcony, but I find this too, like when you're looking at other people that you admire, because
Yes.
we too have those thoughts. Like we're too
Mm,
looking at other people and being like, oh, must be nice to be there. Like they're already where I want to be. And with that, I'd just like to give a quick reframe of like, if you're noticing yourself jealous, instead of being jealous, ask yourself, like, what did they do to get there? And like,
mhm,
what is it specifically that I'm jealous about that that they have? Um,
mhm. And
yeah. So
sometimes it's actually like an insecurity you have looking out at someone else too. I feel like that's a
yeah.
very, very common thing. I've even been mindful of that. I'll be like, oh, that person's really annoying me, or I have this problem with this person. Then I realize it's actually a reflection of myself as well, of something
Yes.
that I might be doing without even realizing it, or something I don't like about myself that that other person has that I need to personally work
Totally.
on. Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. That's a really good self-reflection
Yeah,
too.
it's
Yeah.
taken years, but
Yeah.
at least I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so I was at R. R is for
Yeah.
routines. And routines
Okay.
are just like obviously like daily routine. like lunchtime routine, evening routine, how can you just be in such a good routine that it's just who you are? You don't even have to think about just like brushing your teeth. So it's kind of a boring one, but R is for routines, and then B is for beliefs. And
Okay.
when you think about motivation, like I love to give the example of when I was in my master's degree, I had to do discussion posts. And I hated discussion posts. And the story that I was telling myself when I sat down to write discussion posts was, I'm no good at discussion posts. No one's going to read them. I have nothing of value to add. And if that's the story I'm telling myself, then of course I'm not going to feel motivated to write these discussion posts. And so I had to change that story that like, I do have something of value to add. I got into this program just like everybody else, and my experience matters. And so it's asking yourself, like, what's your goal? Like, is it, if it's working out or moving your business forward or whatever it is, do I actually believe that it's capable? And if not, why? And what's a new story that I could tell myself that will build that belief, even if it's not true yet? What's something that I
Kind
can
of manifesting that vision. Yeah, that makes so much sense too. And it's such a good explanation of any stage in your life, like any goal you may have moving forward. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about starting a podcast? I remember when we launched Beauty Behind the Brand, it was just an idea at first, and I didn't know where to start or what platform to use or how to streamline everything. Buzzsprout has made our lives so much easier, and I want to share some free info about it. Save $20 on your second invoice with Buzzsprout, and they will make your life so much easier. All you really need to do is upload, chat, and interview your guests, and Buzzsprout does the rest.
Yeah.
So
those are my tricks on motivation is, having a vision, your environment, your routines, your beliefs. And then the two that I always like to add at the end are urgency and challenge.
Okay.
Because our brains love when we have like a deadline. Like I have to get it done by this point, right? Even me like getting ready to be on this call at 10 a.m. Like I was like, okay, this is now like urgent to get ready and get in the shower, right? If you give yourself a deadline, then you're going to get it done, right? And then I think challenge, like everyone wants, not everyone, but like a lot of people want life to be easy and like feel good all the time. And I love a challenge. I want to embrace challenge. I'm not happy unless I have a challenge. I'm not motivated unless something is somewhat challenging and like making me sweat in weird places. Even today, I'm like, okay, I haven't done this in a while. Like it's kind of like it's a challenge, right? And so I also, love those two as well to stay motivated is you have a deadline, giving yourself some urgency, and then is it challenging enough? Because like no one wants boring goals, right?
Well, and it makes you grow. Like that is some of the things I notice, like especially public speaking podcasts. Like I've been getting asked a lot more to do more public speaking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm better at just sitting in front of a computer and talking like this. But then I'm like, why can't I do what I do at home and just change the environment I'm in into getting out of my comfort zone? It's literally the same thing I'm doing. I'm just now, instead of talking like one-on-one and like knowing this is how many listeners are listening to these podcasts, just changing that into an actual in-person presentation. And you're doing the exact same thing with your coaching. So you've done like, I think that, well, when I saw you a couple weekends ago, you were just coming back from, it was Halliburton. You had there. Yeah. So do you want to tell a little bit more about how you're doing some of the in-person as well? How you've kind of once again got out of your comfort zone and doing that as well.
Yeah. So I knew that doing in-person workshops and events was something that I wanted to do. I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it on my own, or I didn't want to figure out all the logistics right away of like booking a venue and things like that. And so I actually reached out to a company. It's called Rustic Mama Retreats. They have retreats all across Southwestern Ontario and on the East Coast. And I just asked them, I've been to 2 of the retreats, and I said, are you looking for any facilitators? Yeah, I've been to 2 of the retreats. And so
you put yourself out there. That's awesome.
I put myself out there. I sent them a cold email to just be like, hey, I have a podcast. These are some of the things that I love talking about. would you be interested in like hiring me as a facilitator?
Yeah. Yeah.
And within, I think, like a couple of hours, it was really quick turnaround. They had sent me an email. Within a couple of days, I had an interview with them and pitched my ideas.
Wow.
And yeah, a couple of weeks later, they had said, "Yeah, we want to come to these 3 retreats that we have going on this September, October." So yeah, that's how that got
Amazing.
started. Was just pitching myself, putting my ideas out there, and then it was like, okay, now I have to build these workshops. So my 2 workshops that I do, one's called Amplify Your Motivation, and one's called Lead Yourself First. So fun self leadership. Um, and then I'm doing a couple more workshops locally, partnering with a yoga teacher for one of them, and then partnering with she's a local artist and does painting workshops.
Oh, cool.
So
That's great.
now I'm really excited to collaborate with them and build workshops specific to their niche and their audience,
Mhm.
bringing in personal development to what they're already offering. So
Mhm.
that's kind
I
of where I'm moving with in-person workshops. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think your timing is actually so perfect too with the way, like, I mean, now that people are getting into, I know COVID is like still a thing, but it's like at least we're out and about doing stuff as we can. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's something where people are, I see this, I mean, you and I have been in self-development for like, I think forever. It's just
Yeah.
always been part of our, and I also think just the way we've grown up very similar. And I think it's something that we've kind of implemented it. And I don't know if you felt the same way, where people kind of thought it was like weird, where it's like, oh, you're reading these self-help books. Oh, you're doing this. And like, until I met my partner, I always thought John was like doing the same thing when he was my age. And I'm like, oh, there's someone else like me. And growing up in a small town, we both, like, I remember just people being like, what, you're doing that? Or what, you see a bigger vision than what the small town are holding for us. Right. And how did you kind of like push back on those boundaries and really propel forward into your visions without those like kind of outside noises of people saying, well, why are you going to leave what you currently have to get out of your comfort zone and push yourself into these boundaries that are hopefully going to, well, you're already on that course of success with your visions yourself.
Yeah, that is such a great question. And I don't know if I have it all figured out yet.
Yeah, and that's okay, like, right?
But yeah, I know that definitely when I first started, like when I was like 24, 25, started reading personal growth books, and my friends weren't at all, I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah, same.
Like I was trying to, I was trying to fix myself in some
Mhm.
way. And, after more self improvement, you realize, oh no, there's actually nothing wrong with me. This is just me trying to grow and improve, even while being really happy and content with where I am.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and I think in terms of pushing boundaries in a small town, we'll see how these workshops go locally. The workshops at the retreat went over so well because the women there are already there with a growth
Yes.
mindset. So we'll see how it goes locally. I think that is something that I'm not sure how is going to go. And I think in the back of my mind too, I'm kind of starting to now question, oh, was it the right thing to move back to the small town? Now that I want to have a career in personal growth and coaching and just having events, um, will this work here? And to be determined, I'm not sure, but there's still lots of things to do online,
Yes,
of course,
absolutely. Yeah.
and can do a lot of coaching virtually. It's just not the same. I love
No,
the
the
feeling of
energy.
being in person. Yeah.
I remember you
Yeah.
saying that when I saw you after the Halliburton retreat, and that's what you said. Like you could even tell when you came into my parents' house, you could just see that the energy and the glow you had from that. And I totally agree with you. Like that in-person energy, you cannot get that over like a Zoom
Yeah.
call, or like that artificial kind of video space. But I even feel like with having, yes, the internet, but it's an easier way to connect to people. And that's really what I feel like this whole world now is all about connections. And even with podcasts, like there's people that I don't even know that are listening to like your podcast, my podcast. I feel like they're going to reach out and want you on their podcast. Like that's what we kind of did, right? I was like, oh, I'm following
Yeah.
Deanna already. I love what she's doing. Why not get her on ours? And she can hopefully connect. I mean, even if we connect with one person on that like personal level of self-development, that's all we need, right? Is
Yeah.
to make that
Yeah.
that one moment kind of click for somebody.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I made kind of like the word for my podcast impact. And it's like
Yes.
showing up to, hit that record button. You're by yourself in a room. It's like, if I can just like impact one person, then it's worth it. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I love that question you had on your story I think it was last week, maybe, about like the podcast. Like, would you ever start a podcast? Do you have a podcast? And I responded where it's like almost like my personal journaling. And it's kind of like my way of like, I'm not one to sit there and actually write on a pen and paper unless it's a to-do list, but
Yeah.
I feel like I really enjoy just sitting back and like talking out. Like if there was a situation that happened during the day or that week, I can actually sit and like talk myself through it. And knowing I've had some of those most vulnerable conversations I've had, sitting on my couch by myself, recording, it's some of the most feedback we've ever gotten on podcasts. I'm sure you're very similar on even your stories or podcast episodes as well.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like the ones where I hit publish, I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is
Yeah.
going to go. Did I even make any sense? It's the ones where people are like, I loved it. Like I like really connected with this. And it's like, okay. So and I love like getting that feedback too from people. Feel like, okay, they really like this style. They really connect. This is what people are
Mm-hmm.
going through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting.
Do you see like a trend right now in your coaching where a lot of people are coming to you for this? I mean, you have like a pretty wide like niche even for like your coaching when it comes to motivation and like kind of empowering in yourself. Is there certain things that you notice people are struggling with the most, whether that's like getting that routine in set first or that vision? Kind of what are you seeing as of right now, something that a lot of people are coming to you for?
Yeah, I would say really popular is wellness routine. Like
Yes.
people really struggle with that. And I think a couple of reasons for this, like one, just diet culture in general and being so focused on the number scale. And
Yeah.
I I meant like I was really focused on losing 15 pounds too in the beginning. And then it completely shifted to how can I just move my body every day? And how can I move my body in ways that bring me joy?
Mm-hmm.
And making that shift of like really serving my body in ways that feel good instead of um, punishing it.
That's a really good
For,
point.
yeah. So I'd
Yeah.
say wellness routines is really um, common. Sleep. People ask me about sleep, how to get good sleep. And um, yeah, people are burnt out, people are tired. And um, so I find that's a really common one. I know I'm not a
Mm.
sleep expert, but I always just remind people that um, if you're a high performer, like if you're doing big things, if you're running a business, if you have a full-time job, like you're all doing big things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to take care of yourself, and sleep is part of that self-care. And
Absolutely.
honestly, I just don't think you can afford not to get good sleep
Mm-hmm.
because you get new ideas through sleep. You just rest, recharge, recover. So I don't know. That's kind of my take and advice on sleep. It's like you can't afford not to. Maybe there's like a week of hustle or a week of
Mm-hmm.
something, but over the long term, that's what high performance is like successful career, relationships, health over the long term. And you can't have a long term career if you're not taking care of your health and sleep.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good. So we just did a training seminar, like a mindset coaching with Dr. Izzy Justice, and he does a lot with high performance athletes. We're actually going to have him on the podcast in a couple weeks. He's like unreal. You'll like love that episode because he talks about like how to get your mind. So there's like I don't want to give too much away, but there's like these three different stages of mindset. And it's like, how are you going to get yourself into those proper mindsets and actually recognize what type of mindset you're in? But you talking about sleep. He's done brain scans. He's a brain doctor. And he was saying that like, if you don't have sleep, your brain is actually functioning way like actually at like even like a 5 to 10% like level. Like you think of parents, like I think of
Wow.
like if
Oh,
your toddler isn't
mm.
sleeping right, you know how that toddler is going to be performing throughout the day. They're not going to be enjoying their day. And then I look at us, right? We're more vulnerable, we're more emotional, we're not being able to prioritize, not able to make decisions or think. And that's something I really, really like I never went to like an actual university or college. So it was like all of my friends were pulling all these all-nighters, right? To actually be able to do these reports and stuff, but then they're not functioning properly. So I've always been a sleep person, and I feel like that's how I can be so motivated throughout the day. And that's, you see this is a big trend now. Like sleep was like boring and like no one talked about sleep like 5 years ago. Now
Yeah.
everyone's talking about sleep. There's all this marketing around sleep too. Like, oh, you have to
Yeah.
buy this nightlight, you have to buy this
Yeah.
bed, right? There's so many things. Do you have some like key points for like kind of like that prep for people to be able to kind of mindfully have like a routine that might be suitable for them to be able to have that rest?
Yeah. Um, for me, and probably with people in your industry, like I think my nighttime routine always starts with washing my face and
Yes,
like,
yeah.
you know, getting your face ready. It's I used to honestly skip it because like I've always had good skin. So I've never
Yes,
had to
yeah.
take like really good care of it. But now I think in my 30s, I'm like starting to see wrinkles. I'm like, okay, I need a good solid skincare routine. And it's just also been a catalyst for having a great better sleep routine too. So skincare and then just like I like to at least 30 minutes before the time you want to be asleep, start that. And then
Hmm.
reading before bed. I love spraying lavender on my pillow. I also take magnesium before bed. I find
Hmm.
it's a great supplement, like a calming supplement. And then just since having a baby, I wear an eye mask now every night.
Oh,
And
smart.
it has made the biggest difference in my sleep. And I don't know if it's just because now like I have a monitor beside my bed that has two little lights on it. So it's kind of why I started. But um even if I don't have the monitor right beside me, like it's on the left side of the bed, then I just um I still find it like a game changer.
Oh my gosh, I have so
um
many friends that swear by, I have eyelash extensions on all the time. So like I guess I could buy the proper ones with like the dome size for the lashes, but I have heard that all my friends who wear face masks, like or eye masks, swear by them. Like it is like their holy grail to a good night's sleep.
yeah. And then other than that, just like trying to go to bed at the same time every night, I find is really helpful. Um, yeah, honestly, like I have a baby, he's 11 months old right now. The last year has been the hardest year of my
Oh
my
yeah.
life for sleep. And yeah, we're just kind of slowly now getting back into a better routine. I'm starting to feel more myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, kudos to every parent who's ever gone through sleepless nights. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot. And so
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, anybody who doesn't have a baby should be sleeping so well. Like, and if you're not, why? Why are you not
Yeah.
sleeping
Yeah.
so well for
That's
all of
like
us?
that's like me. I am not a good sleeper. I get that from my mom. I'm like, of all genetics I could get from her, that was one of them. And that is something that, yeah, I totally agree with you of having those like routines and making sure that you're going to bed at the same time. Mine is turning my brain off, but magnesium, it's like I call it like my sleepy time, like concoction, right? I drink that to try to calm everything before I go to bed, having that
Yeah.
routine, making sure I'm off screens well in advance. But I totally agree with you, setting yourself up for success in order to even getting, like you said, your gym clothes ready that next day. So you know when you get up in the morning, your routine is in place and you don't even have to think. That's some of the biggest high performers. I remember like Steve Jobs, some of those big guys saying like, you know what? Don't I wear the same thing every day? Because then I don't have to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. We have they call it decision fatigue. Like
Hmm.
just trying to make so many decisions on a daily basis. You're just exhausted.
Absolutely.
Like save your decisions for the big decisions, the important decisions in life.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what are some of the to kind of close off today's episode, what are some of the key things you think like people should start implementing? Like instead of waiting like, January 1st to make your New Year's resolutions, what are some of the things that people could start implementing even today after listening to this episode?
Yeah. Getting ready for January. I think it's picking one thing. I always say you can
Mhm.
only change one thing at a time. And so think about your life and what's that one thing that would make the biggest difference if you change it for the next 9 days or the next
Oh, I
50
love
days.
that. Hmm.
And yeah, for me, like right now, it's been dialing in on sleep because it's if I have a good night's sleep, then everything else in my life is better. So yeah, pick that one thing that you want to change and get a little obsessed with it. I feel like we're in such a like toe dipping culture lately. And
Oh, I couldn't
something
agree more.
that I
Yeah.
love to say is like, get obsessed with it, go deep, do
Mhm.
research, listen to the podcast, read the books, like get obsessed. And that one thing will probably completely change your life if you master it by January. So
Mhm.
that's my tip of advice.
That's so good. There was a video I actually watched it exactly to your point. It was like, what is something you could accomplish in 60 days versus what you think you could accomplish in like 6 years? It's like dialing that in. It's like, why are you waiting for this? We had a thing happen this year for our product line business. Same thing happened. Like I have a list on my phone of manifesting and like the things that I want to accomplish. And it was like, that was one of the ones for like the next couple years. And we actually are like getting it accomplished this year because we had to, it's the urgency of having to get it done. And it was like, oh my God, wow, we put our minds to this. We made it happen. We had to dial in, but it's actually like happening. It's going to be happening before the end of the year. And it's like, wow, I never would have thought this could happen, but it was like that urgency. We literally were obsessed with it. And I couldn't agree more with the whole toe dipping society, because I even find that too. When we were away on a trip, someone was saying that too. We were in the Maldives and we did like this whole meditation thing at this resort. We were at this wellness resort. You would have loved it. It was like all about mindset, how to put yourself in like that proper like of who you are kind of thing. So like even some of the chanting and thing, and something that they pulled out of me and some of these like different meditations and stuff were saying like, I don't live up to my full potential. And they're saying you play little because you're scared of what other people are going to think of you. And so that was something, we did that back in March. And I said to myself, you know what, this is so true. I'm the toe dipping, like I'm scared to grow as much as I possibly can because I'm scared what people are going to think of me. I'm scared of what society might think. I'm scared to, in case something bad were to happen, playing kind of like that, those boundaries, right? And that's where I feel like with this podcast and with talking to people like you, Deanna, I think it shows people that it is possible, no matter who you are, as long as you get obsessed with it and you get obsessed with your vision and moving forward to what you want to be.
Yeah, so well said. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's being true, like exactly what you were saying throughout the podcast. It's like figuring out who you want to be and being that high performer, or being that, even being a great mom, being able to be present because you got that good night's sleep on different level. There's any level and all these different levels that cater to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That clarity, like seek clarity. That's the number one, or the first habit of high performers is seeking clarity. So that's the first step, I think, is like having that catalyst to change and figuring out what's that one thing there, going after it.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Where can everyone find you, Deanna? Where's the best place for people to reach out if they want to learn more about your coaching or even your podcast so they can tune in
Yeah,
as well?
yeah. Yeah. So my podcast is called Your Next Best Move. You can find it anywhere. And I'm on Instagram. That's the best place to connect. And I'm at Deanna_Hope.
Perfect. And we'll put all your links below as well in the show notes. And oh my gosh, it's so nice to connect. And it's actually fun. Today we're doing a double podcast episode. So we're recording each other's podcast. So we get lots of, I feel like you're getting into the flow, right? Like the more you talk into podcasts as well. So love what you're doing. I love following you. And yeah, this has just been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.